Test, test, test. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Which one of us? You and Randy? I can text it to you. All right. We'll get a little closer. All right. I mean, do you want to lean in and smile? And Paulina, you're in the frame, so. And smile, because we can see your beautiful smiles. I'll send this to you, Thomas. Okay, so this is on now. Great. I think we can start it now. Are we recording? Great. Good morning. And thank you for joining us for this morning's panel, Getting Hired During COVID and Post-Pandemic Recruiting Trends, with a selection of our employer partners. I am Dr. Audra Grady-Verrier, the Director of Career and Leadership Development here at Sonoma State, and I'm really excited to bring this to you this morning. I think we're going to have a great conversation. I'm going to quickly introduce our panelists, and then we'll dive right into our questions. And as you have questions on Zoom, you can put them in the chat for us, and we will respond to you towards the end of our time together. So I'll start here first on my right. We have Casey Porter, and Casey is with Enterprise. He is a employment and recruiting manager for the coastal region. Just make sure I get it all right there. And we have Steve Holmes. He's the Senior Director for Talent Acquisition with LGC BioSearch Technologies. And that is international, but we have locations here in Petaluma and Novato. Next, we have Paulina Prado. She's with us from EJ Gallo Sales Company, and she's a sales recruiting manager. Next, we have Emmy No, who is the process and integration engineer at Keysight in Petaluma too? Santa Rosa, excuse me. Next, we have Thomas Sands. He is the Vice President of Regional Sales in the Santa Rosa region for Exchange Bank. And Randy Farino, also with Exchange Bank, Vice President of Employer and Recruiting Management. So thank you all for being here with us. We're just hoping to have a really great conversation with you this morning. And we'd love to just hear your insights and what's really happening on the ground for you. And Emmy, you're a special participant because you are a hiring manager versus a recruiter. So we'd love to hear from your perspective about how students can really prepare themselves for jobs during COVID and anytime.
I'm not a manager, but I does help with technical recruiting.
Okay, great.
Yes.
That's fine. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to sit down here and start asking you some questions. And you can go however you'd like to. You don't have to all go in a row. So whoever feels called to respond first. So first, what are you seeing in your industry regarding hiring, recruiting, and employment right now? And if you can tell us a little bit about your industry as you start to describe that, that would be great. Then I'll just repeat the question. What are you seeing in your industry regarding hiring, recruiting, and employment right now?
Can we just go randomly?
Yeah, I'll start off. So I work for Enterprise Holdings, and we have the Enterprise Rent-A-Car brand, so we're a hospitality transportation company. And what we're seeing right now is the country really coming back from where we were, and people wanting to travel, and tons of opportunity for employment, opportunities for promotions, opportunities for people who are looking to come in and have a great attitude and work really hard every day and see what doors open up for them. But we're one of the leading recruiters of college graduates in the country. We'll hire 9,000 to 10,000 college grads this year across the U.S., which is quite a bit more than we've hired in the last couple of years. So we're really excited to see this summer is going to be great in wine country, San Francisco Bay Area, and we need people to help lead our teams and people who are looking for ways to get into leadership and management roles.
Yeah, I'll speak for the bioscience space, the life sciences space. We've continued to be quite busy. We never really dropped off. During COVID, our labs were on the front line of fighting COVID, actually, and some of the products that we made and supported. So in a sense, we never slowed down. In fact, we ramped up. Did some rough numbers on the Bay Area and California market in particular, and it looks pretty strong still. There's hundreds of openings for early and recent grad science, early career science folks. we see that economists forecasts are projecting a 10-year continued growth for 10 years, and really, we've all been impacted by COVID and COVID testing and science and all the scientific terms. So in a way, for us, it's been quite busy.
Yeah, so similar here. We are recruiting for a sales leadership development program and also sales internship. And during COVID, we've seen that it hasn't stopped. It's been actually picking up a little bit. So we're hiring all the way in Northern California, so north of Tahoe, all the way down to Monterey. And we are hiring for management positions, but also hiring to ultimately develop the next directors in our company. So we've had open positions and new positions come up since we just acquired 30 new brands and a few more wineries. So we are busy with recruiting, and we have had such a great turnout this semester so far.
Could add, just with EJ Gallo, you represent the sales side, but can you talk a little bit about the other sort of types of employment or jobs that are available at Gallo?
Yeah, so we are vertically integrated, meaning that we own the whole process from grape growing to bottling to labeling to selling the product in store. So I specifically work for a sales department working with chain stores like Safeway, like Lucky, like Rayleigh's, but we are also hiring year-round in the agriculture side, in the wine tasting side, in vineyards and hospitality. That just comes from a different department, but we do have a website, gallocareers.com, where we have about 250 positions available right now, and it encompasses everything with description, with the recruiter, and also with the location, but we are hiring year-round as well.
Thank you.
All right. And as for the tech industry, I would say the market is really, really hot right now. It's both in the Bay Area and up here. At my company, there's a lot of position open. As an engineer, I have been so busy. I start getting busy in the second half of 2020. 2021 was crazy, and 2022 so far is the most busy I've been since my past 4 years at Keysight. So, and our team has a greatest need to expand, and we have position open like never before. So definitely a lot of opportunities for both undergraduate, for an entry level and graduate level students. Especially those who came back to school for a master's degree and already have a few years of experience under the belt. Those are the golden candidates.
Is that on the technical engineering side or overall in the entire company?
I can only speak for the technical side, but I know that we also looking for project managers, for supply chain, for purchaser, and over the technicians on the floor, we've been hiring. Yeah.
We're gonna split our time because we're both from the same company. So, if you want to take.
Yeah, totally. Well, we're in the banking industry, and the Exchange Bank is a community bank. We've been in Sonoma County for over 130 years. One of the things that's really blown up for us in the last couple of years is just the ability to start hiring out of other markets. If you're looking to, get into a job that you never thought of getting into before because maybe you didn't want to move to that area, or you didn't think there was an opportunity there. I mean, now's a great time because we have found that because of the changes in the times, we are really hiring more remotely. We're hiring out of state. The workforce now is changing, and it was kind of doing that before, but a lot of companies really didn't want to expand because they didn't want to take their culture out of their comfort zone. But we have found that by doing that, we're able to tap into a market and potential that we didn't have before. So I think this is a really amazing time to be, getting into the workforce because your opportunities really are growing now. We're finding talent in places we just wouldn't mind for it. And it's given us an opportunity to grow in ways. It's also changing things. I mean, there's a negative aspect to it because you have to keep your, we've got people that haven't, been in the office for 2 years, and now we got to find a way to drag them back in. But if I'm getting into the workforce now and I'm looking for opportunities, there are so many, there's so many different ways to get into the work world.
And Randy, you mentioned remote work. Was that just during sort of the peak of COVID? Do you have full-time remote workers now? Or you also mentioned people coming back to the office. So how does that look right now?
Right, so it's varied. So a lot of our positions had to become remote just because we couldn't have them in the office, but we had to continue those operations. As we move back, some of those jobs will come back, but they might be in a hybrid in a world where that flexibility is still going to continue. Some can remain remote. We have employees now working in 5 different states, and we've been in this area for, like I said, 130 years, and we've never had an employee out of state. So we're realizing in certain positions that we can adjust to continue to move forward, and the amount of talent that we're able to tap into has been tremendous.
Great, thank you.
Right.
And Steve, you want to add something?
I was going to add something to that because the remote aspect in certain roles and certain industry types and certain skill sets was really quite interesting. And what I was thinking about was previous employer had a lot of software developers and really roles that were specific to competing with a lot of the companies here on this coast, but they were doing that in the Midwest. And all of a sudden, late 2000, early 2001, you started to see this massive shift in people resigning all of a sudden because companies were able to go into the living room or to the homes of people who had these skills when they couldn't do that before, or it was without the same level of ability to. So we saw a massive shift away from looking to kind of fend off competition in that local market to all of a sudden it was a full nationwide search against some, well, not say against, but people were recruiting our employees from all over the country. So that really opened up the doors and the minds to hiring managers who had to think, okay, I can't be complacent anymore on paying my person, a certain pay rate if they're able to get something. In some cases, we saw twice their base pay to go and work remote, never leaving their living room or their home, and see their career progress. So that was a really disruptive time in the market, and I think that's still occurring.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. People have been talking about this great resignation, but as I hear you all talk about variety of different industries, it really sounds like things are positive on your side as employers, and you have a lot of positions you're recruiting for, and maybe this great resignation is more like a great shift or transformation. Do any of you want to speak to that?
I mean, it's definitely a challenge. I mean, we probably have more open positions than we've ever had because, and it's not just the great resignation, it's the great Sonoma County problem. I mean, we don't need to get into that, but anyone that's hiring here knows the challenges it is to bring people in here from outside the area and then keep people here. And so there's a challenge there, and so you have to get creative, whether it be with your culture, with your benefits, with your work environment, and just being allowed to create a more hybrid workforce or those other things that do lend to it. But keeping people here has been a challenge, and so that's why going outside the area, to different areas where people are comfortable and in their homes, so to speak, it is almost a necessity to keep things going in certain areas.
Anybody else want to?
Yeah, I would say it's been a big shift, and we've been looking for every possible way to keep people happy so they don't leave. So when people reach out to them on LinkedIn or reach out to them about other opportunities, so we've looked at pay, we've raised pay in most markets, we've started intern pay, we've lowered our hours for every week for our employees to work. So we've taken quite a bit of look over the last year to see what we can do. So that was a shift for us too. So that was a big, and it's not remote work, it's in person, being comfortable helping with, dealing with the public.
And several of you have talked about some of these perks and changes that are happening from the employer side to the employee, things like hybrid, remote time, flexibility, less hours, higher pay. What are some of those other perks that you're seeing your companies offering to sort of bring in new employees and then keep folks excited to be with you?
Yeah, I can start this one off. So similar to him, we've done bonuses on an average basis, as well as self-care kits to send to families at home, as well as delivering wine at home and having a mental health day. So only working 4 days a week and some weeks, and also ultimately also still getting together as safely as possible. So we've had a lot of like virtual happy hours or safe distance events, just to ultimately get that face-to-face time with coworkers, because it has been a shift in a hybrid schedule, and it's sometimes very convenient being able to work from virtually, because you're able to do a lot more and be in a lot more places at once. But you also have that feeling of you want to see your coworkers and you want to spend time with them and catch up with them. So we were figuring out this balance, and ultimately also thinking of how can we keep our employees happy and with this hybrid schedule that we have.
Great, thank you. We also, I'm just thinking of something, this is off the cuff, so I'm going to throw it out there in terms of those perks, but we have a virtual salary negotiation workshop tomorrow as well. And one of my colleagues who moved out of higher education and into the ed tech world was leading this workshop on LinkedIn that I was able to view. And what they were talking about in terms of salary negotiation and benefit negotiation is a whole world that a lot of people don't really know or understand, but it seems like people are really coming to this conclusion of like, I do need to ask for more, or expecting the company to give them more, whether that's the high flex or flexibility or time off or mental health days. I mean, self-care kits, I could use one of those, that'd be great. Do you find that people in this environment are asking for more once you've given them the offer? And what are some of those things that they might ask for?
I'll speak to that. So some of the things that we've done that we've gotten back from our team members is we reduced our hours, and we're going to keep them where they are. Also, we've relaxed the dress code, where
Yep.
in the banking world you're normally suit and tie, and we're okay with jeans as long as they're professional. So we've done things like that. Also, just recently we gave 2% addition to anyone involved in a 401k. So we've done bonus programs, but just really listening to our team and getting feedback from them to understand what do they want. Right now, the big thing that we're hearing now is everyone just wants to see each other again, and we're doing things like we have a wiffle ball tournament. Never done that, but I'm just looking forward to doing it, playing wiffle ball and just getting together as a team. But just more of a relaxed environment, still very professional, but a little bit more relaxed is what we're hearing from our teams.
Great, sounds like more fun too,
Yeah,
right?
fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just to piggyback, I mean, there's been everyone's talking about remote work, but the students that I'm recruiting right now at Sonoma State for our internship this summer are so excited to know that it's not a remote position, that they could be in the office, learn from their peers, develop professional skills. So that gave me a lot of hope, was that people are excited to be back at an in-person career fair or an in-person internship.
Yeah, we see that on our end too. Students are really excited to be back on campus, and with our career fair today, we hope it's a really great turnout, and all of our employers get to talk to students face to face, because they really have been asking for that, the interpersonal piece, especially for those students who were like sophomore, junior during COVID, and now they're a senior and they're just getting back to campus, and they haven't really had these interactions. So it's really important that we're back in person. I agree.
Yeah, and we saw that, or we are hearing that with some of the students who have laboratory backgrounds or science backgrounds, STEM backgrounds, that aren't or haven't had that in-person lab time and feel that they're maybe not as adequate. We're really trying to encourage them to apply and still engage, because it's part of how we're adjusting to this life. So I think those things are some of the second order effects that we had not thought about, but have been educating our managers as to those changes and think through those things. So that's really been a good opportunity for us to step back and really think about how we're doing things, adjusting our benefits when needed, and adding to those flex shifts and giving folks those options, because we really do want to meet those employees where they are and make sure everybody's in a good spot together. But that's really it's just really taught us a lot of things, I think, all of us, to how do we adjust in this environment.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you for adding that in. And for those students who are in the sciences, biochemistry, and they're coming and looking for positions like the ones that you have that require that lab experience, when they get hired and they're in that training and onboarding process, I'm guessing you're helping them catch up. Yeah?
Yeah, of course. And there's certain things that every lab is going to have that's unique to that lab. For us, it's going to be a certain type of test and a certain type of protocols that we teach and train on. But we do have roles that are almost like rotational in our not quite, I wouldn't say the rotation program, but we have roles that students, if they are perhaps rusty in the area, that they can get some of that training in that department. So there's a full protocol in terms of onboarding and training that we would take students through. But yeah, I think our job is just to encourage them, keep applying, don't second guess yourself.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, is that true for you too in engineering?
Yes, would definitely, it's like for Keysight, unless you have worked for us or worked for one of our competitors, you probably don't have any direct experience in that field.
Yeah.
Let me touch base on the salary negotiation. My advice for all the students, even if this is your entry-level job, is to negotiate. But how to negotiate is a different thing. So, briefly, your resume, your interview has to be impressive enough to make it worth it. Yeah, we know that you don't have experience, but you're such a star candidate that we want you enough that you could afford to ask for more. So that's one of the things. And then how to get into that is a different conversation. But please do negotiate.
And come to our virtual salary negotiation workshop tomorrow to learn more about that, especially for women and women of color.
Yes,
The bias is still there.
a lot of students like, oh, this is my entry level, I don't have any experience, I have nothing to leverage, but that's not true. You can still have skills to leverage, and you need to work on develop those skills so that when you're on the negotiation table, you could ask, and then, sorry, what's the other question?
We were talking about if they are lacking any kinds of skills because of COVID and the repercussions of that on their education when they
Yeah.
graduate, will you help them catch up when you're onboarding them?
Yes, we do have mentors. Like for us, we have multiple process. For each process, we have mentor, and we do train people from the start. Yes, but
Great.
things like being an independent thinkers, or take good notes, send decent emails. Those are the things that we hope that we don't have to train for.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out. Decent emails, but also you mentioned the professional materials, the resume, the cover letter, the interview. All of these things need to be on point for them to be a star candidate.
Yes.
Great. Paulina?
Yeah, I would piggyback off that and say I haven't seen anyone who is necessarily lacking skill. It's mostly the intangible skills that we can't teach, like hard working, like dedication, like time management, like the passion, the self-motivation. Those are skills that we can't teach that I've seen in a lot of candidates. But in terms of the tangible skills like sales, like wine, we do have the best training in the country. So those are skills that we teach you. When starting off the company, I've been with the company for 4 years. I did not know a thing about wine. I didn't know a thing about sales. I just know I liked wine. But you automatically get put into sales class. You have a mentor that's assigned to you, as well as you go into fine wine training, spirits training, and a few tech training. So we teach you all of that training. And whether you're in the company for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, you are still getting trained, which is something that I love about this company, because you are growing and you're being challenged every single day.
Great. And Casey, you have a model like that at Enterprise too. You want to talk about that?
We do, yeah. I mean, I've been with the company, it's hard to date myself, 21 years. I've been with Enterprise, so I started when I was an intern. And yeah, same, very similar to her company is development. We are going to train and develop you whether you raise your hand or not, because we always need to have a succession plan. We only promote from within. So our CEO started as a trainee and worked her way up to where she is now. And that's really one of the best parts of my job, is watching people. I didn't major in rental car 101. I'm not even super passionate about rental cars, but I am passionate about mentorship and coaching and business and helping people achieve success. So watching from where I sit, watching somebody who the Career Center referred, who started with Enterprise, who never thought that was an opportunity that they'd go for, and then watching them grow and build a great, career and build a great life for their family. I mean, that's the most rewarding part of my job.
Awesome. So we've talked a lot about the things that have changed during COVID, maybe a few things that haven't changed, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about what has not changed in your recruiting process and what do you still expect from candidates?
I'll go. So there are two main things that we'll look for, that we're still looking for in every candidate is that we want somebody who's competent and somebody who's easy to work with. It's as simple as that. And it has not changed. I mean, we have position open. We are hungry for people, but we could afford, for now, to wait for the best candidate. So it's not just everyone who throw resume at us will take, right? Just to give you statistics, one of my managers, she was sharing that, for an open position, she get between 200 to 500 resume. She would phone interview 10 to 15. Bring in person interview for about 3 to 4, because it take the whole team, that's a whole day, and hiring one. So the competition is still out there. And that has not changed.
Great. Can any of you speak to the stats like Emmy just shared about how many people are applying to positions and what that looks like for candidates?
Yeah, for us,
Yeah.
for us, it can be almost the opposite. A lot of the positions we have, tend to be really niche in our industry, which I'm sure across the board in some areas. I mean, if you're hiring for a winemaker, you're just looking for, folks that can work with your particular varietals and things like that, potentially. But it's the same way for us. We'll run into situations where we, may only have 1 or 2 applicants for a position if we're lucky, and that's if we do a really hard, search for it. And then we have to balance, the need for the skills, and then also, are they going to fit the culture? Are they going to be easy to work with? Are they going to be competent? And a lot of times, there obviously is the risks there that you have to deal with, but in today's market, oftentimes, you're limited with candidates, so, you get creative, and one of the challenges we're having is getting our managers to re-engage almost, because they're so used to Zoom, they're so used to having virtual meetings, that now that we can bring candidates in person is getting them to want to meet these folks and bring them in, because that's so important to have those in-person exchanges, so you can, you can see the subtleties and people's expressions and how they react and different things. And I think it's important to continue to, build on your foundation of culture, because that's one of the, a challenge you have going forward, excuse me, in being more remote, or having, when you're hiring outside your comfort zone, so to speak, is making sure that you have that culture fit. And we, we have so many positions where we're doing that with, and then we have the other half of the organization, which is retail, which is where Thomas sits, where every one of these employees is on site 100% of the time. And so that culture is almost never changing, and so adapting and continuing to fit that, because that's our future. Like enterprise, where they, hire everyone, begins from the bottom and works their way up. That's our goal. Our goal would be to hire someone in the branch in an entry-level position, and that person one day becomes the CEO of the bank. And so being able to develop those folks and then integrate them with the rest of the culture, which is different, it's always changing, is kind of, interesting. It's like, throwing something into a blender sometimes and making sure, watching it kind of go over. So we have to really work hard on, keeping everyone kind of on the same page, so that one side of the organization isn't doing things differently than the other. So it's definitely a challenge.
Great. Thomas, will you talk a little bit about that frontline experience and what you're looking for in candidates? And I
Yeah.
know even Exchange Bank will hire like our students part-time sometimes, and then they move into full-time roles.
Right. So I'll just talk about my career a little bit. I started off as a teller 23 years ago. And so we are really looking to bring people in entry level. And I think the question was, what hasn't changed? In our industry, we have a saying, it's skill or will, right? And so if you have the will, we'll teach you the skill. We'll really put the work in, and we have a lot of training programs that we can help students come in and really educate them, and they can get to CEO level. One of the things that haven't changed but is different is there are a lot of applicants out right now. There really are. And so being able to come in, I think Emmy said, do we want to work with you? So I think going in, whatever career that anyone wants to go into, I think it's important that they take a look at what's it going to take to get to wherever they want to be. And I'll speak to marketing. A lot of students want to be in marketing, right? But do they know how to get to that level of marketing? Because that's a hard job to just interview for and get. You normally have to kind of work your way up. And so being able to understand whatever line of work you're going into, the culture, and what's it going to take to get there, and then also being prepared for that interview. And what we're finding is some of our candidates are very prepared. They've resumes look great. They put the work in, and with the technology we have out there now, a resume, if you're a candidate and you're applying for a position, you want to put some of that position in the resume, and we're finding that candidates are still not doing that. That'll kind of get you into the door, and then they're going to want to know who you are and why do you want this job. And we're finding a lot of candidates get stuck on that first question, why do you want this job? So understanding the position, what it takes to be successful. If I was starting off brand new, I'd interview folks that are in that line of business, kind of what we're doing here, so that you can understand the culture and find out why you would want to work there. Because what we found is when you hire somebody that inherently loves that type of work, they're going to be fine. If it's somebody that has taken a job because it's the next thing, or they're just taking it as a job and they really haven't done that research, it's going to be hard to get over that hump to get that position. But if you go in there and you really know why you want to be there, what inherent that you enjoy about that position, you're going to do really well. And those are one of the things that have not changed, I would say, pre or we're post-COVID right now. Yep.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, so I think something that hasn't changed is finding not necessarily the culture fits, but the culture adds. Because we have such a diverse portfolio ranging from seltzers to spirits to all different types of wine, we have such diverse consumers that our products tailor to, different price points, different palates, different occasions. And because of that, we have such a diverse talent to ultimately help our diverse consumers. So we're still, that's something that hasn't changed, but with COVID, still finding that culture add, as well as our mentorship program. Sales representative isn't sometimes a job that everyone wants to go to after college, but what we try to explain is, sales is such a transferable skill. Any field that you go to, whether it be medical, finance, accounting, you have to sell someone on an idea, right? And that this position is temporary, and we are looking for careers in terms of if you want to go to marketing, finance, if you want to work in vineyards, that is a route that will guide you in terms of phase number 3. But everyone, even similar to your CEO, our CEO Ernest Gallo started as a sales representative because it's so important to learn those tangible skills as a sales representative, because then you're going to take that on as a manager, as a director one day. So our mentorship program and our leadership development program is something that hasn't changed as well.
Great, thank you.
I was going to say our values and principles are really what I'd say are the same. And, we think about ourselves, we talk about science for a safer world. So we really look at things, and we even have a value around brilliance. So we try to bring about that innovative spirit, that safety, that collaboration, those things that keep us all safe, but making products that are helping change the world.
Yeah, I'll just add, culture obviously is a big part of any company's success. So we're very lucky. We've been owned and operated for 65 years by the same family. We're one of the largest privately held companies, but that leads really to making sure you hire right. And even though the hiring market, the labor market got tight, we still hire to the same core competencies that we hired to 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30, because we know that's what it takes to be successful. We work to change our standards. And so that's a big part of it, is we want to hire the right people who want to be here, who want to do the work, who want to be able to get into that leadership role, and then help them move forward. And we're very intentional about how we hire. Is we want, when customers walk into our stores, we want them to see people that represent the communities that we do business in. So that's another piece that hasn't changed. We're very intentional about who we partner with, the clubs, the organizations, the student groups, where we go for community organizations. None of that stopped during COVID. It just changed. It shifted a little bit to still make sure we can hire to make our branches look great.
Great, thank you. I'd love to shift in our last few minutes to what do you foresee for the future as we think about this shift that's been happening? You're talking a lot about what's going on right now. Do you see anything coming down the road that students should be prepared for?
I think the technology is changing. I think the technology is changing. I spoke to preparing a resume and being able to make sure that you have keywords in there that have to do with the job that you're applying for, because now it's all computerized and they literally go, we're looking for 7 words in there that actually links up to this job description. So I think the technology is changing. Also, it's getting very, very competitive. I know you spoke to having 200 applicants. Some of the interviews that we've seen, that we've screened, the ones that typically get through the screening are the ones that can organize their words. So you got to be very prepared for that interview. We have a saying, it's called the Tsar Method. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
Yeah, we do teach that in the Career Center.
Good, that's great. It allows an applicant to have a beginning, middle, and end. So going in there and being able to tell your story in a timely manner, where you have a beginning, a middle, that's the activity piece, and then the situation, and being able to say it without rambling. So being very prepared for that meeting, for that interview, I think is going to be critical, because there are a lot of applicants, and it's a very competitive market right now. And I think a lot of times students just kind of think they can just wing it. They really do need to do their homework. I would suggest writing out some of the questions that they think they might ask you, so that if you do get asked that question, that you're not stunned, you're ready to go. And so what I would say to the audience is just be ultra prepared and really structure your words so that it makes sense and there's a system to it, basically.
Great, thank you.
So the tech market is really hot right now. However, with the supply chain shortage, a lot of companies have to reduce their output because they don't have materials coming in. So it probably won't stay hot forever. And then the market, the demand gonna get tighter and even more competitive. So that's on the market side. On the applicant side, I mean, 2 years ago I went to the Society of Women Engineer career fair. That's one of the biggest career fair that we have in the U.S. And the quality of the candidate is amazing. Just they may not have internship, but they have their own projects. They are very proactive on their own technical development, and they go out there. And those are the people that you got to compete with. And just for a company, if we could pick those, then why wouldn't we? So as for the quality of the candidate, also have improved. And I have been so impressed with everyone I talked to at the SWE career fair. So, and I would say, if you're a sophomore now, it's time to prepare. So when you graduate, go and volunteer to work at a lab, talk to your professor, build your network. We're in Sonoma County, where we're very close-knit, and you could network a lot more than you think. Just talk to your professor. That's one good start. Go join a club, or go do an internship. Go do community service. You will never know who you're gonna meet. So be proactive with your career, and the sooner you start, the better you're gonna be at that negotiation table, because everybody's gonna want you. Yeah.
And that continues through your career, because Emmy and Thomas and I all know each other through Leadership
Yeah.
Santa Rosa.
Yeah.
And so continuing to network and be in the community, developing those professional skills throughout your entire career is important.
Yeah.
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 Paulina?
I was going to say the wine and spirits industry is actually blooming. During COVID, we skyrocketed with our goals. And I always like to say in the good times, people are celebrating with wine and spirits. And in the bad times, people are celebrating with wine and spirits. So because of that, and because we also acquired 30 new
right.
brands and some vineyards, we own now 30% of the wine share in the country. So what that means for us and what that means for you guys is that it's getting very, very competitive. So echoing everything that everyone said, be prepared. Use your resources like LinkedIn, use your peers, use your mentors, use that career center to ultimately research and really make sure that this is your career, because a career is a big deal after graduation. So making sure that you are doing all the preparation in advance, and just as much as we are interviewing the candidates in the interview, they're also interviewing us. So making sure that you're preparing all those questions, and at the end of the interview, you feel confident that yes, this is the place I want to work after graduation.
Great point. I talk to students about that all the time. You are interviewing the employer just as much, and that culture fit goes both
Yeah.
ways. You have to decide if that company is right for you. One other thing that you sparked for me is I think students think about companies and they think, oh, Exchange Bank's finance, Gallo is wine, Keysight engineering. But you all have finance, you all have accounting, you all have marketing, you all have HR. Right? So all of these industries have a wide variety of different types of positions and roles that students can be, pursuing and researching. So just wanted to bring that out there. But Steve or Casey, anything to add in terms of what's not changing or how students can prepare?
I'd echo the comments that were made, but I think I'd emphasize on that sense of community, in that sense of who do you have in your life today that can help you advance? And if you don't have it, talk and start to, volunteer, look at those student organizations, or even if you're out of school and you're just kind of getting going. I mean, for my daughter's a junior. She has, her parents for certain things. She has a friend group for others. She has her professor. And, we're teaching her to use those different groups to help solve problems in a different way. So I think those are some things that I would emphasize or encourage. And then, one thing I didn't look at and really address until I was mid-career was communication skills. So I found organizations like Toastmasters to be intimidating but extremely beneficial, because you would sit in a room with all different age groups, all different professions, but you're all working together. You're working to speak better, but you're really learning to lead and manage your time. And I think those intangibles really set you apart when you talk to somebody, because I can tell you every time I talk to a good candidate, interview somebody and they really stand out, I see something club related, or a lot of times Toastmasters candidates stand out.
Will you just one line on what Toastmasters is?
Sure, yeah, it's a fairly established organization, developed actually years ago here in California to help really with leadership development and speaking skills. But there are branches all over the world, and it's really meant to help with that short-term impromptu speaking, develop prepared speeches, and then all along the way you're learning to be a leader.
Great, thank
And
you.
It's open to
Anybody?
everybody.
Yeah, wonderful.
I would just add, for 2 years, we've all been talking about when are we going to see light at the end of the tunnel. And we see light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, there's no better time to be graduating school and to be looking for a job and to be, trying to sharpen up your skills as you prepare, because we've all talked about it, right? Interviewing is a skill. The more you practice it, the better you get, the more confident you are walking in. But the future looks bright. I know for all these organizations, for my organization, I'm really excited to meet future leaders today at the career fair and see who wants to jump on board.
Great. If you had just one word, phrase, something
Yeah.
quick for students that you want to leave them with.
So, we talked about connecting with folks and knowing people in different industry, and people that know people. One just side note, to get into that door, to have that conversation with a regional president or a engineer, if you call someone on the phone and you're talking to them and you tell them, hey, I need a job, you're gonna get another 10 seconds and they're off the phone. But if you're calling them and you know that there's somebody that could help you get to the next step in that company, and you start that conversation, you basically say, I really appreciate talking to me, Emmy, and if it's all right, I'd like to make an appointment where we could talk. I'd love to hear how you got to where you are. Everyone loves to talk about themselves, and they love that. So for the students that are out there, if you're trying to connect with someone, and you say, I just want to learn how you were able to become so successful, they're going to take that conversation. So it's just kind of a way to get in, because that is kind of hard. How do you know these connections, but how do you get them to want to talk to you? That's kind of an easy way to set it up.
Great point.
Yeah.
And two key terms that we talk about with students that have come up. One is the informational interview, which you just talked about.
Sure.
Requesting time on somebody's calendar to really get to know them and how they made it to where they are through their career path. What happened for them? What was the journey like? And what can you learn from that? And mentorship. Many of you have mentioned mentorship. And
Right.
so we do have a new platform called Sonoma State Network. Randy is one of our alumni and on our board. And so this is an opportunity for students to connect with alums and some key employers and get that mentorship, ask for the informational interview, talk to people, and do a lot of what you all have spoken about this morning. Get out there and practice your skills. So for students that are online and alumni viewing this later, look for Sonoma State Network. And you can go to the career.sonoma.edu website to learn more about that. But for others, one thing you want to leave students with.
Yeah, so not necessarily one word, but I'll say a phrase that we say in Gallo a lot is plan your work and work your plan. So what I mean by that in terms of preparation, sometimes we only get 30 seconds or a minute to really pitch yourself. And we have a workshop called personal selling. So practicing who you are, practicing that elevator pitch that you can articulate to employers, but also, again, doing that research with the company and making sure that you have all questions answered. So making sure that you're planning, with those 5, 10, 15 companies that you want to talk to, and that you have your elevator pitch ready to go, but also being prepared with any questions that you want to ask as well.
We've all dealt with so many things out of our control for a little bit now, and there's two things we talk about a lot if you want to set yourself apart. 100% great attitude 100% of the time, and 100% effort 100% of the time. And if you do those two things that you can control, you're automatically going to set yourself apart from your peers and from your classmates.
Thank you. Randy?
I would say you need to know who you are. Self-awareness is something that you often don't learn about until you're far into your career. And so having some trusted people around you, listen to you in an interview and give you an opportunity to see what you're like in that setting, and then point out the things that may not be ideal either for a work setting or for an interview setting. Learning what your quirks are and the things that are part of you that you necessarily are not necessarily character flaws, but potential professional flaws are great to find out before you're in that setting, because you can correct them, you can figure them out, and at least be self-aware of them. We can't always change ourselves, but we can understand the things that are those deficiencies, and then it allows us to be ourselves. And, companies are willing to train you. The days are gone of, come in with a ton of skills. We're looking for people that can fit our culture, and we're definitely willing to get the right people. If we get the right person, we're willing to train that.
I would say be brave and be proactive. And learn the skill, the non-technical skill, the skill that we cannot teach you. Go out and do stuff, because that will train you on time management, that will train you on your own project management. Those are the skills that we cannot teach, but it will shine through the interview if you have it or not.
I was going to say courage, so very similar thought. Just step out, know yourself. I think that self-awareness is great as well, just in the sense of what you've done and what you can bring to the table, and that effort, that can-do attitude. Those things are great intangibles.
And you all were students graduating from college at one time where you felt nervous, maybe awkward, and didn't know what to say. And so recruiters and professionals, they know that about students that are coming out of college. We try to tell our students that as much as we can. Like, they understand, and it's okay. And even if you're nervous or you stumble over your words, like, keep trying. Courage, be brave. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
take
proactive.
advantage of being a college student for as long as you can. Everybody wants to help college students.
So true.
Take advantage of that for as long as you can and just ask for help. If you never ask for help, it'll always be no.
Yep.
So,
Great. Well, thank you so much. This has been such a rich conversation that I think is just going to carry on. I just am thinking about all the places that I can send this recording to because our students need to hear what you shared today. It's really important for them to hear from employers and from a variety of industries and really know what are those pieces that you all are looking for and how do they need to be prepared. So this was a great conversation for them, and we hope to really share it with them very widely. So thank you all so much for being here and being on the panel this morning. And most of you are recruiting today as well, so thank you for being at the career fair and working with our students and mentoring them and supporting them along the way. Really appreciate it.
thanks.
Thank
Sandra.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
And hey, will you guys take a selfie really fast?
Yeah.
You guys ready?
I was gonna do that too. If you
Good job.